Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And of course, that means your bank. I'm Dave Braun. I'm here with my partner, fantastic business mentor and coach, but most importantly, my good friend, Larry Broughton. Larry, how you doing, man?
Hello, handsome Dave. I'm doing great. It was great to see you last night.
Yeah, we had a great meeting last night.
And have just some time together. It's I say it all the time, but I just never want you to forget. I appreciate that you let me be on this journey with you. You're an amazing human being. You inspire me. So thanks for being in my life.
Thank you.
I love you.
Honor for me too. Love you too, man.
Yeah. What do we got today?
No,
whatever.
Yeah. All right. Here is the topic for today. A question.
Okay. Right.
What is a good Kolbe score for an employee? Now, we talked about the Kolbe A index.
Sorry, I'm laughing. But yes, I love these types of questions. Okay, go ahead.
Right.
We talked about the Kolbe A index. Yes.
In the previous episode, that was 86. We talked about what it is. So if you guys haven't listened to that before you go any further, we recommend you go back to 86. But if you have, let's talk about really how we're going to be using it in a little bit more in depth. And of course, what is a good Kolbe score for an employee? So Larry, give us a quick 2-minute refresher on what Kolbe is. Kolbe A.
Well, I don't know if I can give you a 2-minute if we really want to do this. But let me say this, that it depends. Larry, that is always your excuse. Well, it does depend. And what we try to do, first of all, in our organizations and all of the organizations that we coach and mentor, we try to get folks away from using the term employee unless you have to, because immediately you're setting up us against them mentality. It's a relationship where it's like, okay, he's a payday boss. Try to call them team members, okay? But I get the question, Dave. Okay, what's a good one for an employee? So before I kind of go into that, let me give you a quick refresher on this. First of all, the Kolbe score or the Kolbe assessment measures your conative mind as opposed to your affective or your cognitive mind. So Kolbe shows your instincts. How do you naturally show up? What are your natural desires? This isn't Myers-Briggs, am I an extrovert or am I an introvert? That's not it. It's more of a holistic view of people.
Yeah.
We all need to work in areas of our strengths, but oftentimes we don't. And so when we find out what our Kolbe scores are, it's not a right or a wrong. It just is, right? And this isn't an excuse to say, I'm lazy, because you're usually not. It usually just means that you're working outside your strengths. But very quickly, and I'm sorry I'm speaking so quickly, but I know we want to get through this on this refresher part. If you watched 86, this will just be a good reminder. Kolbe breaks down your conative mind in 4 different action modes. The first one is fact finder, and this is your propensity to seek out information before you act. Like you do research, okay? You do research before you make a decision on things, okay? You might watch a video, you might read some articles, you might go interview some experts in the area. The next action mode is follow through. And these are people who like to follow and create systems. These tend to be people who are orderly. Okay. Or you can, this is the person you're going to call and say, hey, where is this? Where do I find this? The standard operating procedure.
Right.
A quick start, this is the third action mode, is someone, now this describes your propensity to do things without knowing what the outcome is going to be. These are people who go by their gut. This is their instincts. Okay. They take all the experience, they take a little bit of, gut instinct, and they make a decision from there. These are people, like I kind of describe myself, I'm a initiating quick start, and I'm a very high quick start, is they'll stand at the edge of the building and jump off and say, we'll figure it out. We'll build the plane on the way down. The fourth action mode, and then I'm going to wrap it up here, is implementor. These are people, this action mode measures how people work within a physical space. Are these people hands-on? Oftentimes interior designers or architects tend to be high implementors. Okay. So that's kind of the rundown on what episode 86 was. And I hope that, I know that on YouTube you can speed up you
better slow that one down.
You may want to slow that one down. I was speaking to somebody the other day who English is not their primary language. And we'd been communicating for a little bit. And afterwards she said, The first time I met you, I didn't understand one word that you said. You were talking so fast. Yeah, I know. I'm from New York. That tends to be what we do.
What do you say? Can you repeat that again?
Exactly. So is that okay on kind of
that's perfect. And I think where we should go from here is we talked about an employee. Well, maybe we start with what is a good Kolbe score for a key member of your staff or a partner. And I thought we could go and look at yours and mine and compare them to each other.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do this, Dave. And I started this whole thing with saying it depends. Well, it truly does depend on what position is it that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you're looking for someone who is going to be driven by system, let's say it's an operations person. Okay. Who is responsible for developing and creating standard operating procedures and making sure that service standards and quality standards are being met effectively, and you need to scale. You're probably going to need somebody who is an initiating quick start and follow through. Okay. Depending on what they're doing. Okay. If I'm looking for somebody who's, let's say that I own a design studio, and I'm looking for someone who is going to be my senior interior design person. You're going to be looking for somebody who's initiating implementor. Okay. So it does depend. Okay. The great thing about Kolbe is that you can do a little bit of research and they give you kind of best practices.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm looking for this person. Your Kolbe score ought to be in these ranges. But I think it's a good idea because I think you and I have been working with each other for a lot of years at this point. And frankly, you're the best partner I've ever had. I've had a lot of partners. And I think it's because, well, for one thing, we share core values. And we talk a lot about this in the Victory program, right? Yeah. We share a common vision. Both of us are willing to subordinate our own personal agenda for the success of the team. But also our Kolbe scores match up really well. So let's share what those look like, Dave, so that you can see what a complementary Kolbe score looks like for somebody who might be a partner or senior executives in an organization.
Okay, so for those of you who may not be watching this, you're just listening, we're sharing my screen. And on the left part of my screen, I've got Larry's Kolbe score up. And on the right part of the screen, I've got mine up. So we're going to kind of walk you through this a little bit here as a pretty good example. So Larry, yours is on the left here. You see my screen, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. So let's talk about Fact Finder a little bit. You're a 5 and I am a 7. How is that good? And what are the warnings that we have to look for?
Okay, so I am what's called the mid-range Fact Finder. I'm a 5. So in the Kolbe, it scores you from 1 to 10. And you'll notice on this, they approach us a little bit differently because there is no right or wrong. 10 is at the bottom and 1 is at the top. So I'm a 5. I'm considered a mid-range. This means that I can do research, but I'm going to get burned out after about 45 minutes of doing research. I have to get up, I have to walk away, I've got to do something else, and then I can come back to it. I know people who can sit down who are initiating fact finders, and they can sit there for 8 hours and just power through doing all kinds of research. Okay. You are a 7. We are 2 degrees away from each other. All right. So why is that important? Okay. Well, that's important because what they say is, and I forget exactly how they word it in Kolbe, but if you're roughly 3 degrees apart on one of the action modes, you need to be a little bit careful about the way you communicate with each other. But if you're roughly 5 degrees or more apart on an action mode, what do they call it? Conflict is not imminent, but it's pretty likely. All right. And if you think about early on when you and I first started working with each other, Dave, there were times when you and I had conflict. We love each other, we respect each other, but there was some conflict because we were figuring each other out, right? And oftentimes, I'm going to be honest, they came down to me, right? Because you are a high fact finder, you're initiating follow through, right? That's your highest score as an 8. We have 6 degrees of separation and follow through. We have 6 degrees of separation on quick start. All right. I'm very intuitive. I'm very instinctive. I don't do research. And you are kind of the opposite of that. I'm not wrong. You're not wrong. It just is. So what we need to do, folks, is when you hire people, you need to recognize that it's usually not always, but usually not good for you to hire an employee who's built just like you, unless you're trying to replace you.
Correct. Yeah.
Most of us aren't doing that though. Most of us are trying to build our team, round out our team. The problem with hiring people that are just like you is you're going to bring the same weaknesses to the team as you have, right? So for instance, I am not good at building systems. I'm not good at building following systems. I'm great at building teams, but I'm not great at building systems, which is very interesting because early on in my career, I was an operations person. I was a vice president of operations for an organization. And after a while, it just got to be a grind. I really did not like it. I loved the organization. I hated what I was doing though. And when you look at my Kolbe score, you see why, all right? I'm resistant to it. I don't like setting up systems. You, on the other hand, are very good at it. Our organization would not be where it is, Dave, without you, driving that part of it. In the hotel company that I've got, same way. Our former chief operating officer had a very similar Kolbe score to you. In fact, I think he might have been a 8-9 something. He might have been an 8 fact finder, 9 follow through, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so conflict can happen. So what you just need to be aware of is that if conflict is imminent, let's just use that word, or highly likely, you just need to make sure that you over communicate. Okay, over communicate, and make sure that you offer grace to each other. So I think that's.
I'm writing a few things down, man. Yeah, that's. I was just writing a couple of things down because. All right, so I
may have got sidetracked on what you actually asked me.
No. This is great. So you have to look at where you're the same or very close, because you could get stuck together doing something. But then you have to look where you're very far different, because you could get into conflict. And then you've also got to look at both of those and see, all right, what do we need to do to make sure we get the goals done in the business?
Right. What's the needs of the position that you're hiring for?
Yeah. And I think and so one of the things also, Larry, why don't you speak to this, is that, if you're listening to this, maybe you're a solopreneur, or maybe you have one VA or two, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what's going to happen is you are going to have to likely do a lot of stuff that is not, natural to you, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you think we ought to handle those type of things?
That's a good question. The truth is this, that if you're a solopreneur, you're an early new business owner with a startup, life will be a grind. It just get it out of your head that if I just stay motivated, motivation and inspiration is part of it. Okay. We've got to have competency as well. A lot of this competence that comes from highly motivated people and inspiration that burns you out after a while. But the truth is that life is going to be a grind until you can build a team around you. And so you're going to be working outside your strengths for a while. Okay. But as you grow the organization, make sure that you're hiring people who have the strengths that you need to accomplish the task. Now there's very, very, very unique people. And I used to know this statistic years ago in Kolbe. And if somebody wants to dive deep into the Kolbe, or maybe you are a Kolbe expert, keep in mind, I am not a Kolbe expert. Dave is not a Kolbe expert. We use Kolbe in our organizations. We've been using them for a long time. But I'll tell you this, that there is this unique unicorn out there, someone who's called a bridge. And that means on all action modes, they fall in the middle there. They're not resistant. They're not a 1, 2, or 3. They're like, maybe they might be a 5 or a 6 fact finder. They might be a 5 or 6 follow through. They might be a 5 or 6 quick start, or an implementer. I've only met one of those, or maybe 2, but one comes to mind. And she works for the organization that you and I work with a lot, Dave. Her name is Tina. And those people are great in the organization because they can do just about anything, okay, for a short period of time, okay? And so if you can find somebody like that, oftentimes those are great people to have in a larger organization because they can communicate with just about anyone in the organization. So I think I got sidetracked again on what your question was.
Yeah. So here's some of the practical things. Let's talk about how do we practically use this. So say we're a solopreneur or we got one person and we want to hire the next person. We want to hire the next person on our team. So I'm pointing to the screen here. Say you, for example, let's say Larry is a solopreneur. All right.
Yes.
So we're looking at Larry right here. So would you recommend after you do some initial screening, you get down to 2 or 3 candidates, then you want to give them a Kolbe A index assessment, and then you might be thinking, wow, I am a 9 in quick start. I'm very resistant to systems. I probably should get somebody to balance myself out that's here.
Yeah, I would flip that a little bit, but that's absolutely the gist of this thing. First of all, if I'm going to be hiring someone, I need to identify what is it that I need to have done. So if I'm if I personally, Larry, solopreneur, okay, now I want to grow my organization. Well, I know now just from experience, I need an operations person. I need someone. I'm not going to be able to scale without systems. I'm not going to be able to scale without standard operating procedures, right? So, okay, who does that? Well, an operations person. Okay, Kolbe people, what's the best profile for someone who's going to be in the operations area? And I just know from experience, they're generally built similarly to you, Dave, or to our former chief operating officer. And so I'm going to start looking for that. And in the HireMyVA program, we have tips and tricks on how to build your position profile when you are trying to find candidates, and questions on how to suss this stuff out. But yes, once you get to maybe your top 3 candidates, then, and again, check with your state employment regulations, because some states allow you to give assessments, others don't. Some tell you when in the process you can give these. But yes, what we do in our organization, anybody that we're hiring for supervisor, manager, director, VP, executive in the organization, before we make an offer, we give them the Kolbe A index and the Gallup strength finders assessments to make sure that they're going to fit with the team and with the needs of the organization. I have been seduced in the past. I thought this is going to be an amazing candidate, right? And then we go give them the Kolbe A index and the strength finders and realize they don't even fit. It would be a terrible hire. And I have gone against, and I've used my gut sometimes that, well, I'm going to hire them anyway. And I can think of one case in particular that I went against what the Kolbe scores said, and my experience knowing that I needed this person, but because sparks were flying, I got seduced by the sparks and hired the person, and it was an absolute nightmare.
Yep. So let's talk about that type of a scenario in a little bit. So we talked about solopreneur or a couple of people. Let's talk about it from a bigger company perspective, right? One of the things that happened to, my corporate experience over and over and over again was you've got the corporation is growing, and you've got a technical star, right? They're doing really, really well. Yeah. Well, their path to move up in the organization would be through management. They go into management, get some training, but they're just a crappy manager, right? So would one of the things that you would want to use the Kolbe A index for is to see not just how they're going to fit in the organization now, but if you're contemplating moving them to a new position.
Of course. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But again, if you have an organization that's that size, so I used to have a grid, of all of our managers, leaders, directors, anybody that's in a managerial leadership position on this grid. And then under it was the team, which they led. Okay. So I will tell you this, I have seen successful people that are all over the board on the Kolbe. I haven't found hey, in order to be a great leader or manager, your Kolbe score needs to look like this. It depends on what's the rest of the team look like.
I see.
Okay.
Right.
So just because Larry happens to be a 5.293 doesn't mean that all successful leaders are going to be 5.293s or thereabouts. Okay. No, I've seen people who have completely different Kolbe scores as me who have been highly successful. I've seen people who have had almost identical Kolbe scores as me and been absolute bombs and failures, right? Because you can have a Kolbe score like this, but you may still be lacking nuance in your communication style. You may be a jerk. Your core values may be all about you and not the team. This is just one tool.
One tool in the arsenal, right?
One tool in the arsenal. Okay. Yeah. One tool, one arrow in your quiver, however you want to describe the thing, right? But what I don't want to do is bum people out to say, well, my Kolbe score is this, and I'm never going to do anything. No, I've seen people all over the board on these things. And there's a lot of people get seduced, Dave, by like Richard Branson's Kolbe score is similar to mine. And so people say, well, I'm not built like Richard Branson. I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. That's one guy out of billions of entrepreneurs around the world. Okay. Yeah. Is he high profile? Absolutely. But you got to remember, most businesses are not like Virgin. Okay.
True.
They're small organizations. Okay. But yeah, don't worry about your Kolbe score. What it is, just know this is how I'm built, and use that to your advantage to grow through an organization or to grow your organization and to bring on team members who complement you. This is a good thing to know your Kolbe score and embrace it. I'll tell you, once I learned about this, it gave me permission to be me. You know, instead of saying, oh, I'm just so stupid. I'm so lazy. Why don't I like systems? Why can't I follow systems? It's because reflexively, from a DNA perspective,
it's hard.
I'm not going to. No wonder I was burned out in my former job as a VP of operations. No wonder I felt like it was a grind. No wonder I felt like a failure, that I couldn't, in my head, yeah, I got to get the system built, but I would always procrastinate because it's way outside my strength, right? I'm like really resistant towards it. Does that make sense, Dave?
Oh yeah, totally. And you can, if you want, and certain things, I suppose you could supplement your organization with, maybe a contractor to do something.
Absolutely.
Like you talk about being resistant to systems. Let me hire a contractor temporarily to help me get my systems going, to jumpstart them, and then maybe I can take them after that.
Yeah, there are operational people for hire. Like what do they call them? Fractional chief operating officers, for instance. But yes, even in VAs, we do encourage you to have your VAs take these. Again, depending on, are you hiring a general VA or am I hiring a graphics VA? Whatever it is, we do encourage you to, once you know what it is you're looking for. But if let's say that you're hiring a general VA, you're going to want somebody whose scores are a little bit more in the middle, and maybe, I'm just thinking maybe lower on the implementer side, only because, they're working virtually. You don't want them to be a 1 or a 2 implementer, because you do want them, the quality of touch is important. So if they are generating collateral for you, if they're generating something that people will be seeing, you want them to have a intuitive high level of excellence about visual presentation.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things too is you reminded me of, I've got the Kolbe scores for Daff and Brian on our team. And it just reminds me of, I need to go back at a regular basis, because if I don't go back and look at their strengths on a regular basis, as well as the Kolbe A index, I'm going to go into a default mode and just start saying, well, I don't want to do this. Let me throw it over there, throw it over there, throw it over there. Right. As opposed to saying, well, how can I structure this task? Or how can I have them do this task that fits more within their personality? Because if it's something that they're strong at, then I can probably expect them to do it very quickly, even if I'm delegating. But if I'm delegating it to them and it's not a natural or a strength thing, I got to probably give them more time, and tell them, just do 45 minutes on it, that kind of a thing on a daily basis to get it over the finish line, because it may kill them to say, you got to spend your whole day on this one thing.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is.
Yeah. Well, when someone is working in their strengths, let me back up. The challenge that we have, David, solopreneurs, leaders, sometimes when we're doing things outside our strengths, we think, well, gosh, it's been taking me an hour to do this particular task. And I just can't keep doing this, because now I got 3 of these particular tasks in front of me. I don't have 3 hours to do this. And I don't want to be paying someone else 3 hours to be doing this. But you forget that if you hand that hourly task times 3 to someone else, and it's in their strength, they may be able to accomplish that in 20 minutes because they're good at it. It comes naturally to them, right? So this, in concert with the strength finders, is really powerful. So if I'm looking for an accounting person, for instance, and let's say it's a forensic auditor, I'm going to want someone who's a high fact finder, an initiating fact finder. But also, when you complement that with the strength finders, I want to make sure that it's somebody who is, I don't want a creative type doing accounting, right?
Like a
At all. I
woo
don't.
or whatever. Yeah.
What's that?
Like a woo. You don't need a woo doing
I
that.
don't need a woo. I don't need
Yeah.
winning others over. No, I need someone who's got really super high integrity in that area, right? So anyway, um, what else should we talk about in this? I'll say this. I can't think of a position in an organization where it would not benefit you from having at least a working knowledge of the Kolbe A index and giving it to them. When you get to the point where you're having, thousands of team members, or 1,500 team members or 1,700 team members like we used to have, we didn't give it to everybody, but we did give it to managers, supervisors, directors, that, supervisors and up, I guess, is what might be an easy way to describe it.
Awesome. Probably this episode more than others, I've been writing a bunch of notes down. That's why I'm looking down at my screen. It's just some good reminders of some more practices that I need to like reestablish. Some of the stuff I was doing before, like reviewing on a regular basis, Kolbe and strengths with my team. I kind of let that go a little bit.
It's so easy to do. It's
and
easy
I need to put it like on my calendar, like a quarterly review or the team meeting that we do once a week. I need to do that. Every quarter, I need to sit with them as part of that meeting and review it with them.
Yeah. And if I were to wrap this thing up, Dave, the question was, what's a good Kolbe score for an employee? I would kind of wrap it up like this. Well, let's stop thinking about them as employees and let's start thinking about them as team members. Exactly. Because when you have team members, you're all in it together, and we want what's best for the team, not just what's best for each individual on the team. Well, if that's the case, well, let's identify what is the culture. Can we get them playing in the right position on the team that's best suited for them, right? And so I don't know football that well, but I would imagine a quarterback is probably not going to be, you put them in, what's the center, flipping the center and the quarterback is probably not a good strategic move or tactical move in a football game, right? So let's identify what are the strengths of people and just get them, as Jim Collins says, get them on the right seat on the bus. Okay, and this tool in particular, as well as the Clifton Strengths Finders, are two of the best that I have found to do that if you have a working knowledge of them. Don't hire people that are just like you unless you're trying to replace you. Find out what it is that you want this person be doing. What's the position profile? Okay, so if you're hiring someone to do design work, that's going to be different from someone who's doing operations work. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you can just do a quick internet search and say, what's the best Kolbe profile for operations?
Good tip.
Okay, put the position in there, and there are all kinds of forums out there where people chat about this.
Awesome. Good. That's a really good tip, Larry. Thanks for sharing that one.
Sure.
Well, man, that was just power-packed episode with tons of information. I learned so much just doing this, and there's so many reminders. It's like, oh, I need to redo some of these practices, get them back into my business. So hope you guys took some good tips from this, and we really appreciate you being on. Thank you for being with us, because remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom, and we are here to help you. With our course, community, and of course, our white glove service, where we find a rockstar VA for you. So 3 things right now we'd love for you to do, and we really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And number 2, give us a rating, preferably 5-star, or leave a comment below this video, any comment. It helps us get the word out. And if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and, first click the like button, the like hand, and then hit the subscribe button with the little reminder so that you get reminders of new episodes. And then the last thing is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and our community and our white glove service. Because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry and I have helped a lot of folks. We're helping more and more as time goes, and we want to help you too. So go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, you'd mentioned the community. The community is one of the most important parts of the programs and offerings that we have, because we are not built to do this alone. Solopreneurs, true solopreneurs, where it's just me, I have no one working with me, is a lie. Okay. We've all got someone who's helping us. We all have someone at least in our corner cheering us on, or even working against us. Okay. Who kind of motivates us or inspires us.
Right.
You got to have people around you. The community, our community, is a great place to go to share ideas, share challenges, share opportunities, and to get other people to help you kind of suss out the goodness that's presenting, that life is presenting to you, and to offer solutions to challenges that you might be having. Okay, so get on the journey with someone else. Life is a whole lot more fun when you're on the journey with someone who shares, similar interests. And additionally, we've got coaching and mentoring programs available for you as well. Our goal is to serve entrepreneurs, leaders, and high achievers, to help them reach their fullest potential. Okay. So you can reach out through any of the social media channels, through our website for more on that. But I will leave you with this. Do yourself a favor, do the world a favor, go do something significant today. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.